Story number 1. Dark Whispers, Chronicles of the Haunted Hospital. In the fall of 2001, as a budding journalist fresh out of college, I, Eleanor, along with my best friend and colleague, Sarah, received a peculiar invitation. It was from Sheriff Mitchell of a small suburban village in Texas. He needed our expertise in documenting a bizarre incident that had recently occurred. Intrigued, Sarah and I packed our bags and camera gear and embarked on what we thought would be just another assignment. On our way, Sheriff Mitchell briefed us about the prison inmate hospital and the recent escape of several prisoners who had committed a daring robbery. He had managed to round up some, but a few were still on the run. Our task was to follow the investigation and hopefully interview the prisoners once they were caught. Joining us were Robert, an experienced detective, and Linda, an empathetic therapist who worked at the hospital. Their aged wisdom juxtaposed against our youthful enthusiasm. One evening, while we were walking near the outskirts of the forest, a blur of fur and fangs darted past us. A wild coyote, perhaps more scared of us than we were of it, caused us to panic. We lost our path and ventured deeper into the woods, our hearts racing as night descended and the world around us turned into a maze of shadows. It wasn't long before we stumbled upon a long-forgotten structure. Its walls were crumbling, and an eerie silence surrounded it. Sarah suggested it might be a good place to search for the escaped prisoners, and as it turned out, she was right. In one of the dank, dimly lit rooms, we found one of them, cornered and terrified. It wasn't the authorities or the idea of being incarcerated again that had him scared, though. His eyes darted around, as if expecting something sinister to emerge from the shadows. With Robert's expertise, we managed to apprehend him and learn about the locations of the remaining escapees. Linda's calming presence was essential in ensuring the prisoners' cooperation. Yet, as days turned to nights, the true horror of the hospital unraveled. The place was haunted. Phantoms of pain and regret floated in the corridors. Whispers echoed, and Sarah and I would often wake up, feeling a cold hand brushing against our cheeks. Robert, the hard-nosed detective, started to see the apparitions too, and Linda, being sensitive to emotions, felt the residual pain and anguish. During our investigation, we learned about a tragic accident that had taken place decades ago. The hospital was once a thriving medical center but caught fire one fateful night, trapping many patients inside. Their souls, it seemed, were trapped forever in those charred walls, their only mission to remind the living of their presence. It was these spirits, these remnants of a bygone catastrophe, that had scared the inmates into fleeing the prison. No bars or guards were scarier than the dead who had grievances against the living. By the time our investigation came to a close, we had managed to document the tales of the ghosts, uncover the tragic past, and ensure the escaped prisoners were back in custody. Sarah and I returned to our city lives, but the memories of that haunted hospital still lingered. Now, years later, as I pen down this account, the cold winds outside my window seem to carry the whispers of those lost souls. Sometimes, when the night is especially quiet, I can almost hear them calling out to me, reminding me of that terrifying autumn in 2001. Story number 2. Echoes of Ashwood, Memories from the Shadows. In the winter of 2002, I, Nathan, was part of an elite group of forensic scientists, specializing in cold cases. Alongside me were Alex and Tyler, my longtime companions in cracking some of the most mysterious cases in suburban New York. Our reputation led Sheriff Wilson to call us to Ashwood Village. The job? To find and capture escaped inmates from the prison hospital after they executed a robbery in a neighboring town. During our assignment, we were joined by James, an experienced woodsman, and Clara, a renowned paranormal investigator. Their ages and wisdom were evident, contrasting sharply with our youthful recklessness. One cold evening, as the darkness set in, our routine investigation took a chilling turn. A creature, neither human nor fully animal, darted past our path. Panic ensued, and the five of us ran aimlessly through the dense woods. The sound of crunching leaves, snapping twigs, and our own labored breaths filled the night. Our hurried escape left us with minor scrapes and cuts. In our haste, we stumbled upon a decrepit building, its facade eroded by time, and an almost palpable aura of sorrow surrounding it. With nowhere else to turn and the hope of finding some of the prisoners, we ventured in. To our astonishment, huddled in a corner of a damp room was one of the escapees. But it wasn't the law he was afraid of. He spoke of shadows, whispers, and cold touches that plagued him since his escape. Utilizing our combined expertise, we delved deeper into the building and the forest. With James' knowledge of the terrain and Clara's intuition about the supernatural, we managed to round up the other escapees. But the true horror was yet to unveil itself. Each night, as darkness fell, apparitions made their presence felt. Shadows with no source danced on the walls, and disembodied voices whispered tales of pain and regret. Clara sensed an overwhelming sorrow, a residue from a disaster long past. We had heard tales of an old hospital fire, one that consumed many lives, but never had we imagined that the remnants of that catastrophe would linger in such a haunting manner. Through meticulous investigation, piecing together old records, witness testimonies, and Clara's psychic insights, we discovered the tragedy that befell the old Ashwood Hospital. A devastating fire, an accident caused by sheer negligence, had claimed numerous lives, leaving the souls of the departed trapped, their pleas for justice echoing through the corridors. The escapees were driven out, not by the fear of captivity, but by these restless spirits seeking acknowledgement. Their stories needed to be heard, their tragedies recognized. As we wrapped up our assignment and handed the prisoners over to the sheriff, we left Ashwood with a promise to ourselves and to the spirits. We would ensure their stories were heard, and their memories honored. To this day, when the winds howl and the nights are especially dark, memories of Ashwood flood back. It's a reminder that some stories, no matter how chilling, deserve to be told. Story number 3. Lost Shadows, Recollections from Evergreen Hollow. In 2003, I, Amelia, alongside my fellow lawyers, Isabel, Victoria, and Charlotte, were at the pinnacle of our careers. Residing in the bustling city of Los Angeles, we had carved a niche for ourselves in the world of criminal law. Our reputation caught the attention of Sheriff Adams from a suburban village near Los Angeles, leading us to the strangest case of our lives. Sheriff Adams briefed us about the recent escape of prisoners from the local inmate hospital. These inmates, fresh from a brazen robbery, had inexplicably fled the supposedly high-security facility. To assist us, Sheriff Adams introduced us to Peter, a retired detective, and Miranda, a spiritual medium, both seasoned in their fields and offering a wealth of experience. One evening, during our quest to track down the escapees, we encountered an unsettling sight. A creature, half human and half beast, sprinted across our path. Filled with dread, we fled into the woods. The thick foliage tore at our clothes, and jagged stones cut into our skin. Panting and disoriented, we came upon a structure consumed by nature. It stood there, dilapidated, cloaked in darkness and secrets. Pushed by a mix of determination and the looming threat of the escapees, we decided to venture into this forgotten haven. It wasn't long before we discovered one of the fugitives. However, the terror in his eyes wasn't due to his capture but something far more sinister. Peter's investigative skills paired with Miranda's supernatural insights slowly started to unravel the grim tale of the old hospital. Patients who were brought in were never seen again. Unearthly cries echoed through its halls at night, and people spoke in hushed tones about the lost souls of Evergreen Hollow. The escapees, it turned out, hadn't fled from law enforcement. They fled from the haunting specters of patients who had once resided there. A massive fire, ignited by a short circuit, had consumed many innocent lives years ago. Their restless spirits now roamed, seeking solace and retribution. The realization hit us hard. Each night, we were tormented by chilling apparitions, hands that reached out from walls, faces distorted by pain staring back from mirrors, and voices that whispered of their tragic end. Sleep eluded us, and our once logical minds grappled with the supernatural events unfolding before us. With Miranda's help, we reached out to the spirits, seeking answers and a way to bring them peace. They told tales of negligence, of being trapped, and of the agonizing pain they felt as the fire consumed them. Our quest to capture the escapees took a back seat as we worked to unveil the truth of the Evergreen Hollow tragedy. With the combined efforts of our group, the truth was exposed, leading to the establishment of a memorial for the lost souls. As we left the village, we carried with us not just the satisfaction of solving a case, but also the heavy burden of the tales of the departed. Even now, years later, when the winds howl and nights grow cold, I remember those tormented souls and our harrowing days in Evergreen Hollow. Story number 4. Nightmares of Pacific Pines, My Haunting Memories. In the misty winter of 2004, I, Rachel, was an ambitious journalist for a renowned magazine in San Francisco. My colleague, Sophia, and I were known for our fearless approach to investigative journalism. Our determination caught the attention of Sheriff Hayes from Pacific Pines, a quaint village located in the outskirts of the city. He briefed us about a prison breakout from the village's inmate hospital, inmates who had recently pulled off a major heist in a town nearby. To assist in our quest, Sheriff Hayes had also enlisted the help of Martin, a retired tracker well-versed with the local woods, and Dr. Helena, a psychologist specializing in criminal behavior. Their age brought experience and a sense of calm to our otherwise young and spirited group. One evening, as the fog rolled in, an unidentifiable wild creature swiftly crossed our path. Startled, Sophia and I, along with Martin and Dr. Helena, dashed into the woods. Thorns scratched our faces, and hidden stones tripped us. In our frantic escape, we stumbled upon an old, forsaken establishment half-eaten by the wilderness. Seeing it as a potential hideout, we cautiously entered the derelict building. Our suspicions were confirmed when we found one of the escaped prisoners, who looked more relieved to see us than terrified. He babbled about shadowy figures and whispered voices haunting him since his escape. Martin's skills proved invaluable as we located the other escapees in the surrounding woods, all equally disturbed by some unseen presence. Dr. Helena hypothesized that trauma and guilt might have led to hallucinations. But as night fell, her scientific explanations were tested. The desolation of the hospital was replaced by mournful cries and ghostly apparitions. Figures from a time long past floated in the moonlight, their faces reflecting anguish. Every night, these restless souls visited our dreams, turning them into nightmares. Sleep was a luxury we couldn't afford. During the day, with the help of the locals, we unearthed the hospital's grim history. Years ago, a section of the hospital caught fire. The blaze was swift, engulfing an entire wing. Many patients perished, their souls unable to find peace due to the suddenness of their demise. These spirits, it seemed, sought justice and acknowledgement. Their presence in the woods and the hospital was a cry for their stories to be heard, and their deaths remembered. They had inadvertently driven the prisoners to flee, not from the law, but from the relentless hauntings. As we handed the escapees back to the authorities, Sophia and I wrote our most chilling story yet. With Martin and Dr. Helena's insights, we narrated the tragic tale of Pacific Pines, giving a voice to the silent souls that roamed its woods. Years have passed since that fateful assignment, but every time the winds carry the scent of pine and the fog rolls in, memories of that haunting experience flood back, reminding me of the souls that once walked with us in Pacific Pines. Story number 5. Shadows of Cypress Lane, My Unearthly Encounter. In the sultry summer of 2005, I, Aaron, along with my fellow forensic scientists, Jacob and Max, were renowned for our work across the state of Florida. Our skills drew the attention of Sheriff Dawson from a quiet suburb of Miami, who brought us in on a case that would haunt us for years to come. The case was clear-cut at the outset: track and capture escapees from the local prison hospital who were implicated in a recent major heist. To bolster our efforts, we were joined by Adrian, a seasoned wilderness guide, and Eliza, a noted parapsychologist. Their experiences and knowledge were worlds apart from ours, and yet, it felt right to have them on our side. One evening, as twilight cast eerie silhouettes across our path, a creature of an indescribable form raced ahead, making us lose our bearings. In our panic, we found ourselves deep within the woods, nursing scratches and bruises from the untamed wilderness. It was during this inadvertent detour that we chanced upon an aging establishment, hidden away from civilization. Given its secluded location, we chose to investigate, hoping to find our fugitives. And we did. One of them was cowering in an old room, muttering about shadows and whispers that haunted him incessantly. With Adrian's wilderness expertise and Eliza's uncanny ability to understand the paranormal, we pieced together the disturbing history of the hospital. Many years prior, a catastrophic calamity had claimed numerous lives within its walls. Those departed souls, restless and tormented, seemed to have lingered on, bound by their tragic end. Nights were agonizing. Despite the balmy Miami weather, an icy chill pervaded the air. Phantasmal figures roamed, recounting their distressing tales, their voices echoing in the wind. Every corner held a secret, every shadow a story of yesteryears. Sleep was a distant dream, replaced by chilling visions and nocturnal whispers. Through diligent investigations, poring over yellowed records, and listening to the spectral testimonies, we uncovered the dark truth. The disaster had been avoidable, a result of sheer oversight, turning the hospital into a mausoleum of despair. The escapees, it was clear, had been driven not by the desire for freedom but by the relentless hauntings of these aggrieved spirits. As the final chapter of our investigation closed, and the escapees were returned to custody, we made a silent pact to bring the truth of the hospital to light. With Eliza's guidance, rituals were conducted, seeking to provide the restless souls with the closure they so desperately yearned for. The sun-soaked lanes of Miami, where life once thrived, now hold a secret chapter of my life. The haunting memories of that summer in 2005 often creep into my dreams. And on some nights, when the wind carries the scent of blooming jasmine and the distant sound of waves crashing, I'm transported back to those chilling nights on Cypress Lane, forever reminded of the souls that once walked beside us. Story number 6. The Haunting of Willowbrook, Memories from the Abyss. 2006 is a year etched into my memory, not for the reasons I would have hoped. I'm Lydia, and back then, together with Emma, Natalie, and Rebecca, we were considered the brightest legal minds in Orlando. Our formidable reputation led us to a case that would forever remain in the darkest corners of our psyche. Sheriff Bennett had urgently called us to a secluded village, detailing an escape from the local prison hospital. The inmates were implicated in a recent crime wave, and it was essential they were brought back swiftly. To navigate the intricacies of this peculiar breakout, we were paired with Patrick, a seasoned investigative journalist, and Iris, an ethnologist known for her studies on local legends and folklore. Their years added a depth of knowledge and groundedness, contrasting against our youthful exuberance. One dusky evening, as we ventured near the wooded perimeter, our hearts were sent racing by a sudden, eerie creature that darted across our path. Panic set in, and we sprinted into the depths of the forest, the sharp edges of nature leaving their marks on our skin. It was within these woods that we stumbled upon an old, weather-worn mansion, a structure forgotten by time. Considering it a likely refuge for the escapees, we ventured in, soon discovering one of the fugitives, petrified and mumbling about shadows that spoke. As the days progressed, with Patrick's sleuthing and Iris' understanding of ancient tales, we unraveled a heart-wrenching story. The hospital had once served as a sanatorium, where a tragic fire had consumed many lives. Instead of peace in the afterlife, these souls found themselves trapped, their agony manifesting in spectral forms that haunted the hospital's grounds. Each night was a test of our sanity. Ethereal apparitions would manifest, recounting their tales of woe. Their cries, their anguish, became our nightly lullabies. Sleep was elusive, the dead had stories that demanded to be heard. The escaped inmates, it turned out, were not just fleeing justice but were trying to evade the relentless pursuit of these vengeful spirits. As our investigation culminated, and the fugitives were returned to custody, we advocated for a memorial at the hospital, recognizing the souls lost in the tragedy. With Iris' guidance, rites were performed to help the spirits find the peace they so desperately sought. Although we returned to our bustling lives in Orlando, the shadows of Willowbrook lingered. Even today, when the wind carries the sweet scent of blooming magnolias, I'm transported back to that harrowing adventure in 2006. Each rustle, each whisper in the night, a chilling reminder of the souls we once encountered. Story number 7. Whispers of Silverbridge, a tale from the shadows. The year my perspective on reality was forever altered. I'm Jane, a journalist by profession and an ardent skeptic by nature. Along with my colleague and confidant, Elsie, we had been invited by Sheriff Mitchell to the quaint suburbs of San Francisco, to Silverbridge Village, to be exact. The reason? Several inmates from the village's prison hospital had vanished, not before orchestrating a grand theft in a neighboring town. Joining our investigative venture were two seasoned individuals, Arthur, a retired detective with a keen eye for detail, and Madeline, a local historian and lore enthusiast. Their wisdom and expertise would soon prove invaluable. One night, as we treaded a less used path, the sudden appearance of a fearsome creature sent us sprinting into the thick woods. The thorny embrace of the underbrush and treacherous forest floor left us bruised and disoriented. But fate, it seemed, had a plan. We found ourselves facing an old, abandoned edifice, hidden from the world. Driven by our journalistic instincts and the possibility of finding the escapees, we entered. To our astonishment, hidden within was one of the fugitives. His state was not of a man hiding from the law, but one haunted by unseen terrors. He rambled about dark figures and ancient chants, shadows that watched and waited. With each passing day, as we scoured the premises and its surroundings, the pieces began fitting together. Madeline uncovered old village records, revealing the hospital's dark past. Decades ago, an unforeseen calamity had befallen the place, trapping many within its fiery grasp, condemning their souls to an eternity of unrest. When night cloaked the village, our skepticism was challenged. Ethereal apparitions roamed the corridors. The air grew cold, filled with desperate cries and haunting laments. They weren't mere stories, They were remnants of the past, demanding recognition and justice. Their restless presence, Madeline theorized, was what drove the inmates to their desperate flight, seeking refuge from the relentless spirits. Pooling our collective strengths, we worked not just to capture the escapees but to also give voice to the souls trapped in purgatory. After apprehending the criminals and ensuring their return to custody, we embarked on a mission to honor the lost souls, to acknowledge their tragic end and help them find peace. Now, years later, when I close my eyes, memories from Silverbridge come flooding back. The muffled cries, the chilling touch of unseen hands, and the eyes, forever watching from the shadows. They serve as a reminder that some tales, no matter how unsettling, need to be heard and remembered. Story number 8. Echoes of Palmetto Haven, Chronicles from the Abyss. The stifling summer of 2008 casts a shadow over my memories. I'm Mark, and along with my comrades, Alan and Derek, we were the vanguard of forensic science in our time. Yet, no amount of scientific prowess could have prepared us for the mysteries of Palmetto Haven, a quiet suburb outside Miami. Sheriff Rodriguez had summoned us concerning an unsettling breakout from the village's prison hospital. These fugitives weren't just any criminals, they had a recent heist under their belts and were dangerously adept at evading capture. For this complex puzzle, we were joined by Walter, a seasoned cartographer, and Estelle, an ethnographer with a peculiar interest in the village's history. Their mature expertise would soon prove indispensable. It was during one of our nightly stakeouts when an indistinct figure broke our line of sight, startling us to flee deeper into the encompassing forest. Its gnarled trees and hidden roots left us battered. But fate had a twisted sense of adventure, leading us to a derelict manor swathed in an oppressive silence. Hoping to find the escapees, we ventured in. The chilling discovery of one of the fugitives, murmuring about phantoms and echoing screams, was just the beginning. Estelle, with her rich knowledge of local tales, began uncovering a grim history. The manor was once connected to the hospital and bore witness to a devastating tragedy that ended numerous lives prematurely. The souls of the departed, it seemed, hadn't moved on but lingered, tethered to their unresolved past. Nighttime at Palmetto Haven was a theater of horrors. Apparitions danced in the moonlight, and chilling breezes whispered their tales. The sheer force of their presence was overwhelming, forcing even the hardened escapees to flee their spectral tormentors. Walter's maps, coupled with Estelle's historical insights, painted a ghastly picture. The tragedy, it seemed, was no accident but a result of human folly and neglect, amplifying the spirit's anguish. With the culprits apprehended and the real history of Palmetto Haven unearthed, Estelle suggested a ceremony to acknowledge the lost souls, hoping to give them the peace they yearned for. Now, years later, the haunting memories of that summer often cloud my dreams. Every whisper of the wind, every rustling leaf takes me back to that eerie manor in Palmetto Haven. The anguish, the pain, the desire for justice are all too vivid. They serve as a reminder that the past, no matter how long gone, often finds its way back to us. Story number 9. Glimmers of Hollow Glen, Memories from a Time Unforgotten. I often find myself casting my thoughts back to 2009, when the very foundations of my beliefs were irrevocably shaken. My name is Clara, and along with my close-knit group of lawyer friends, Mia, Hannah, and Zoe, we formed a formidable team in the legal circles of Orlando. We received a call from Sheriff Barnes, inviting us to a secluded village regarding an uncanny breakout from the prison hospital. Assisting us in this endeavor were two professionals, a seasoned tracker named Leo, and Isabel, an expert in parapsychology. Their insights from their respective professions would soon become indispensable. One evening, our pursuit took an unexpected turn. A creature, the likes of which none of us had ever seen, dashed across our path, causing us to scatter in fear into the depths of the forest. Amidst the dense underbrush and a labyrinth of trees, we stumbled upon an antiquated mansion, exuding an aura of desolation. Given the circumstances, we thought it prudent to scour the mansion in search of the escapees. It didn't take long for us to find one, but he wasn't in a state of defiance. Instead, he was gripped by an unspeakable terror, muttering about shadows that whispered and wailed. As the nights wore on, with Leo's tracking expertise and Isabel's knowledge of the supernatural, we began to piece together a grim tapestry. The mansion and the prison hospital shared a macabre history. Decades prior, a disaster had befallen the estate, leading to an enormous loss of life. Those restless souls, it seemed, were trapped in an eternal limbo, their cries echoing in the chilly wind. The real reasons for the prisoners' escape became evident. It wasn't just the walls they were trying to escape from, but the tormented spirits who sought justice for their untimely demise. The nights were harrowing. Phantasmal figures danced at the periphery of our vision, their sorrow-filled stories resonating in the cold silence. Rest was a luxury we couldn't afford, with the spirits making their presence known at every turn. Eventually, after apprehending the inmates and delving deeper into the estate's sinister past, Isabel suggested a memorial service to provide solace to the souls and, hopefully, free them from their perpetual torment. A decade later, the memories of Hollow Glen still haunt my dreams. The moans of the spirits, the chill of the unseen, and the tales of a bygone era remain etched in my mind. Whenever the wind howls on a quiet night, I'm instantly transported back to that fateful year, a stark reminder of the shadows that once walked beside us. Story number 10. Fading Echoes of Brookdale Hollow. The cold winters of 2010 always evoke a shiver down my spine. I am Rachel, a passionate journalist, paired with my best friend and fellow scribe, Lila. That winter, Sheriff Thompson beckoned us to a secluded suburb of Washington, D.C. The reason was as baffling as it was alarming. Several inmates from the village's prison hospital had vanished into thin air after orchestrating a daring heist nearby. Guiding our investigation were Robert, an ex-military strategist, and Evelyn, a talented medium. Their collaboration was a mix of cold precision and intuitive insights, a balance we soon realized was necessary for the challenges ahead. It was on one chilly evening, amidst the silhouettes of the trees, that a sudden rustling startled us. A swift creature darted ahead, pushing us to instinctively plunge deeper into the woods. Bruised and disoriented, we emerged in front of a dilapidated mansion, its history evident in the peeling paint and ivy-clad walls. Driven by urgency and hope, we scoured the mansion. Soon, we uncovered one of the fugitives, his defiance replaced by a terror that seemed too profound for a mere criminal. He whispered of shadowy figures and chilling screams that haunted the night. Evelyn, sensing the depth of the supernatural energies, began a seance. The result was a cacophony of voices from the past, revealing a horrendous tragedy that occurred years ago, leading to an untimely death for many. The souls, bound by pain and seeking justice, were the very specters that had driven the prisoners to flee. Night after night, we experienced the uncanny. Ghostly apparitions appeared, their sorrow-filled eyes searching, their icy fingers reaching out. Sleep became elusive as the haunting specters ensured we relived their torment with them. The investigation took a deeper turn. Robert's strategic acumen helped us decode cryptic clues while Evelyn communicated with the spirits, piecing together a tale of betrayal, fire, and a cover-up that sealed the fate of many within the mansion's walls. Upon apprehending the remaining inmates and reconciling with the spirit's anguish, Evelyn held a ritual, hoping to release the souls from their endless loop of torment. A decade has passed since those haunting events at Brookdale Hollow. Every rustling leaf, every shadow in the dark transports me back to that fateful winter. The weight of the lost souls and their quest for justice remains a testament to the stories that must never be forgotten, even when the world moves on. Story number 11. The Eerie Whispers of the Island. Every time someone mentions 2011, an unsettling chill runs down my spine, taking me back to those haunting days in the suburbs of Honolulu. My name is Mark, and back then, I was part of an elite team of forensic scientists, including Jason and Neil. Our reputation was impeccable, and we were highly sought after for challenging cases. That year, Sheriff Ikaika beckoned us to a secluded part of Oahu regarding a perplexing breakout from a prison hospital. To aid in our endeavor, we had two associates, Kai, a native historian, and Leilani, a spiritual healer. Their roles would soon prove invaluable in ways we hadn't anticipated. On a seemingly ordinary evening, while we were deep into our investigations, an unforeseen incident changed our trajectory. A creature, indigenous yet unidentifiable, darted across our path. Alarmed, we plunged further into the woods. Scratches adorned our arms, but what awaited us was even more baffling: an old mansion, eerily silent, yet with an aura of stories untold. Our initial agenda was straightforward: locate the fugitives. And we did, uncovering one in the mansion, though his demeanor was more fearful than defiant. He babbled about shadows that spoke of sorrow, pain, and anger. Leilani sensed strong spiritual energies, and through a series of rituals, began communicating with the spirits. Kai's historical expertise revealed that the mansion and the adjacent prison hospital were built upon ancient burial grounds, desecrated years ago. This desecration led to a catastrophic event, causing many untimely deaths. The restless souls left behind became the tormented spirits that haunted the vicinity, inducing fear in the hearts of the prisoners. The nights turned into an unsettling blend of reality and the supernatural. Ethereal apparitions emerged, their mournful eyes conveying tales of betrayal and pain. The sheer intensity of their presence kept us awake, reliving their agonies night after night. With Kai's rich historical knowledge and Leilani's spiritual guidance, we devised a plan. A ritual was performed, paying respects to the aggrieved souls, acknowledging their pain, and seeking their forgiveness for past injustices. The days that followed saw a notable change. The once tormented mansion now emanated a calmer aura. The prisoners were returned to their confines, but the memories of those eerie nights forever lingered in our minds. As I reminisce about that fateful year, I'm constantly reminded of the thin line between our world and the one beyond. The tales of the past, the spirits longing for solace, and our tryst with the unknown are memories that even time fails to fade. Story number 12. Sin City Shadows. Each time someone mentions 2012, I am hurled back to that bone-chilling episode just beyond the neon haze of Las Vegas. My name is Clara, and I, along with my colleagues Sarah, Mia, and Naomi, make up a close-knit team of lawyers. That year, we were assigned a peculiar case by Sheriff Daniels in a quiet suburb nestled away from the infamous Strip. Little did we know that alongside this assignment, the cosmos had a different, more harrowing adventure in store for us. Joining us in this unusual case were Lewis, an accomplished private investigator, and Rosalind, an enigmatic local with reputed psychic abilities. We initially questioned the need for such an eclectic team until the ensuing events unraveled the reasons. One evening, after an intense day of investigations, a swift, unidentifiable creature obstructed our path. Panic set in, and before we knew it, we found ourselves racing deeper into the woods. Battered and disoriented, we stumbled upon a decrepit building, emanating a sense of lost time and forgotten memories. Our professional instincts kicked in, and we started exploring the building in search of the fugitive prisoners. The search bore fruit when we discovered one of them, trembling with an inexplicable fear. He spoke of shadows that whispered tales of anguish and revenge. Rosalind's intuition sensed restless souls lingering in the vicinity. The puzzle began coming together when we learned that the hospital was previously an establishment that had seen a massive tragedy decades ago, resulting in numerous untimely deaths. The remnants of those souls, seeking closure and justice, haunted the place, manifesting their agony through terrifying apparitions. As dusk turned to night, the spectral activities intensified. Eerie whispers, fleeting shadows, and sudden drops in temperature became our nightly ordeal. Despite being trained to rely on logic, we couldn't ignore the supernatural phenomena enveloping us. Rosalind, tapping into her spiritual prowess, and Lewis, with his investigative skills, managed to unearth the tragic events of the past. We discovered that a grave injustice was done to those who perished, their deaths covered up by influential individuals for their gains. To appease the restless souls and aid them in finding peace, Rosalind conducted a ritual, seeking forgiveness and assuring the spirits that their stories would be brought to light. The nights that followed were less tormenting, and the spectral appearances diminished. Our ordeal culminated in not only apprehending the escapees but also ensuring that the painful history of the establishment was acknowledged and respected. As I reflect upon those harrowing days and nights, the events serve as a powerful reminder that sometimes, in seeking justice, one may need to venture beyond the realm of the living. Story number 13. The Shadows of the Lone Star. Whenever I close my eyes, the eerie memories from the Dallas suburbs in 2013 haunt me. I am Lydia, a journalist by profession, who, with my close friend and colleague, Elizabeth, had been chosen to cover the escape of several prisoners from a unique hospital for inmates. To assist us in this bizarre case, the local sheriff paired us up with Marcus, an ex-cop turned private investigator, and Linda, a historian known for her extensive knowledge of the region. One evening, as the four of us navigated through the dense woods on the outskirts of Dallas, an unidentifiable wild creature dashed across our path, making us panic and sprint deeper into the forest. Our frenzied flight led us to an ominous-looking, decrepit building. The entire place reeked of mystery and abandonment. Our immediate concern was to find the escaped prisoners, and it wasn't long before we discovered one of them cowering in a corner of a dimly lit room. His eyes showed unadulterated terror, not of being recaptured but something far more sinister. Throughout our exploration, Marcus felt an ever-present sense of dread, while Linda kept mumbling about the location being reminiscent of a tragic tale she'd once come across. As night enveloped the landscape, our worst fears materialized. Unseen entities brushed past us, whispers of the long dead echoed in our ears, and cold gusts enveloped the area, even inside closed rooms. This was not just about the escaped prisoners. As Linda delved into her memories, she recalled a tale of a massive tragedy that had befallen the village decades ago. The hospital once served as an asylum, and due to malpractice and corruption, numerous patients had met their untimely demise. Their restless spirits, still seeking justice and closure, haunted these grounds. Each night, as we worked towards finding the escapees and unearthing the buried history, these specters made their wrath known. No longer was our mission solely about capturing fugitives, it was about acknowledging the past, revealing the truth, and setting the tormented souls free. With the help of the information Linda provided and Marcus's determination to right the wrongs, Elizabeth and I wrote a series of articles that not only reported the prisoners' escape and subsequent capture but also exposed the dark history of the asylum. It turned out the ghosts, with their terrifying antics, were desperate for their stories to be told, for the truth to be unveiled. To this day, Whenever I hear of Dallas, I remember not just the adrenaline of chasing a story but the ethereal faces that emerged from the shadows, pleading for justice. It was a chilling reminder that sometimes, the stories that need to be told aren't always in the realm of the living. Story number 14. Echoes from Phoenix's past. The memories from that year still haunt me. I'm David, a forensic scientist, and together with my colleagues Mark and Brian, I was called to investigate a peculiar case in the suburbs of Phoenix. Alongside us were Ethan, a retired detective, and Gerald, a psychologist with an interest in abnormal behaviors. I still remember the evening when everything took a bizarre turn. As we trod the quiet, winding roads, a fearsome creature suddenly sprang from the bushes, startling us into a frenzied escape. We inadvertently veered off the main path, finding ourselves amidst a labyrinth of ancient trees and eventually at the doorstep of a dilapidated building. The structure seemed out of place, desolate, and eerily silent. As forensic experts, our initial instinct was to explore it for the escaped inmates. To our shock, within a dimly lit chamber, we found one of the fugitives, seemingly more dead than alive, murmuring about shadows and cold whispers. Our investigation took an unexpected turn when Ethan stumbled upon old police reports. The building we were in had once been a psychiatric ward, which was shut down after an appalling tragedy. Numerous patients died under mysterious circumstances, with whispers of malpractice and experiments. Each night, as we camped near the vicinity, we began to experience unsettling phenomena. Whispers in the wind, fleeting shadows, and chilling gusts became a nightly ordeal. Brian, usually the most rational among us, even claimed he was visited by an apparition, a woman in a white gown, her eyes filled with sorrow. Gerald proposed a theory: the prisoners, susceptible to psychological triggers due to their criminal dispositions, became easy prey for these restless spirits. These souls, trapped by their traumatic deaths, sought to convey their pain, anger, and despair to the living. We felt a moral duty, not only to capture the inmates but also to unveil the sordid history of the facility and offer some form of closure to the trapped souls. Through a series of articles and collaborative efforts with local historians and mediums, we gradually unearthed and shared the forgotten stories of those who perished there. To this day, whenever I hear of Phoenix, I don't think of the desert sun or the vibrant life. Instead, I remember the cold shadows of its past, the eyes that pleaded for their stories to be told, and the chilling whispers that still echo in the darkest corners of my mind. Story number 15. Whispers of the Forgotten, San Diego's Shadows. 2015 was a year that drastically altered my life. I am Emily, a defense lawyer. Alongside me in my firm were Isabel, Clara, and Serena. We were a dynamic quartet, known for our diligence and success. One evening, Sheriff Donovan, a stout man with a graying beard, sought our expertise for a case in the quiet suburbs of San Diego. Several prisoners had escaped a local hospital after a robbery and needed legal representation. Accompanying us were Robert, an ex-police officer with over 2 decades of experience, and Eliza, a seasoned private investigator. One evening, as we journeyed through the woods discussing the case, a spine-chilling howl pierced the air, and a shadowy figure darted across our path. Panic-stricken, we plunged deeper into the forest, desperate to distance ourselves from the entity. Thorns tore at our clothes and jagged stones bruised our feet. Eventually, we stumbled upon a grand, dilapidated mansion hidden by time and nature. Sensing an opportunity, we entered the mansion in search of the escaped convicts. To our astonishment, in a dim, dusty room, we found one, looking more terrified than threatening. He rambled about seeing specters and hearing haunting laments. As night encroached, we realized our dire situation. Stranded in an unfamiliar, eerie locale, we decided to stay till dawn. As the night wore on, we experienced inexplicable phenomena: cold breezes in closed rooms, faint apparitions, and distant whispers of despair. Our investigation soon took a paranormal turn. With Robert's connections, we unearthed a grim past. The mansion was an old psychiatric hospital where a catastrophic fire had occurred, claiming many lives. Those souls, it seemed, never departed. The prisoners had escaped not because of mere human threats, but due to the relentless torment of the restless spirits. Weeks of diligent investigations and countless sleepless nights followed. But by piecing together old records, testimonies, and clues, we not only successfully represented our clients but also shed light on the dark history of the mansion, ensuring the dead were remembered and revered. Though our professional journey moved forward, the experience remained with us. Every shadow, every creak, every cold draft now reminded us of that fateful night and the echoing whispers of the souls yearning to be heard.